Ben and welcome to another Shots Fired Airsoft video. And today it is a beautiful day, it's actually quite warm. Just been running around the field shooting this thing, and this thing is the Sabre M20X. Now there is an unboxing of this on the channel. I never got around to doing the firing test footage of it. It was involved in a battle up on the mainland, big 3-day Nerf battle. Took it up there, ran it for a couple of days. It was very enjoyable. I did run into a few issues with it, however that was mainly due to the fact that it is all metal, so it does tend to fall apart if you don't threadlock stuff. Quite why it wasn't done at the factory, don't know, but I'm not here to dig at the build because it is a fantastic gun. What we're here to do today is to stretch its legs, fire it at range a bit, and for that I have the two 650mm barrels. I've got one with the bearing scar on, and I've also got one with the string barrel. If the bearing scar doesn't work out too well, I'll try the string barrel. However, I am going to run it primarily with the bearing scar because that is Sabre's kind of preferred way to do it these days. As for the setup of the gun itself, it is obviously, if you haven't seen the original video on it, it is a aluminium billet and stainless steel pump action blaster. So essentially it is the quintessential Nerf Springer, or dart blasting Springer as they're known. Manual, pump at the front, and you've got a Talon geometry mag. So this is a Worker Talon style magazine, and that just fits in there nice. And then you've got your operation is very simple. It loads quite well. I have had to add a small piece of plastic above the push rod, or the pusher, just because the magazine actually allows the darts to sit too high, and what it can do is it can actually take a little bit of foam off the dart on the way into the barrel. However, with a little bit of plastic just put on there just to help the dart sit a bit lower in the magazine, it doesn't have those problems. Should it really have those problems when it comes out the factory for, you know, the kind of money it does? Well, probably not, but it's easy to oversight. This is based on Sabre's technology that they've built up over the last however many years they've been building blasters, and this is kind of like the ultimate expression of the larger platform. So this is essentially an M20S, which is traditional PRM sort of Delrin, molded Delrin design. This has everything else replaced with billet, aluminium and stainless steel. So it is an incredibly well built piece of kit. Don't like the stock, the way they've done it. There's a lot of play in it. It's never going to collapse or anything like that, but a lot of the other Sabres, they had 2, and they actually had 4 points of stabilisation. So you didn't get this sort of awkward flappiness that's going on here, because the stock doesn't actually bolt in place. It literally rests with 2 pins going through there on these rings. So there is quite a lot of play in these bottom rails, which is what allows the slap. And because there's only one bar at the top, it can triangulate and actually not prevent it from moving. So last night I went through, I gave the rifle a good health check. We've got freshly lubed plunger, there's all sorts of fuss going on. Essentially cleaning and waxing the barrel. A lot of people tend to use like furniture polish and stuff like that. I use dry PTFE lubricant. It doesn't allow things to stick to it, and it's not quite the same as just using furniture polish, which obviously has other things in that don't necessarily go well with your darts. So going over the chronograph, just to remind everyone, this is on the 18kg spring, purely because in my experience, this is the most consistent setup for distance. I want to know that I'm getting the FPS that I'm getting every time. With the large spring, it has the potential to break 420, 430 FPS. However, using darts at that kind of FPS, I don't know if it's something to do with the Sabre barrel or the way this delivers air, but it can quite often damage darts in the barrel. It can cause interesting air seal problems. So I've stuck with the 18, and as you can see, 340 to 350 FPS, pretty much every shot. Get one bad dart, sits around about 327, but we are around that. I want to know that I'm getting 3, 4, 5, 50 FPS out of this thing every time I fire, not the odd occasion when it works. So that is my utilization for using the 18kg spring. Disclaimer before we get going, I do not have the optics required to shoot this at long distance. Obviously in airsoft we have hops that add backspin to a BB, so the range is artificially extended. In Nerf we can't backspin a dart, so what we end up with is brute power. This fires 350-ish FPS with a gram weight dart, or just over a gram. And I haven't worked out what the jewelage is on that, but I'll put it on the screen now. And obviously if you compare that to a, you know, like as powerful as it can be airsoft sniper legally, you are way over that. So this is essentially just punching these darts through the air as hard as you can to get the range. So one of the problems is that you have to slightly lob your darts, which means that in terms of optics, you need a scope with offset rings. So essentially you can have the scope set like that, so when you lift the nose of the gun, you can still see the target and you can extend the scope's holdover by doing that. I don't have one of those, hence the reason I've got my fake EOTech on the gun, which is the optic I have with the most holdover. This was a little bit rushed, this video, because this gun is actually sold to someone, and I had to sell it because it's such a huge amount of money to put into one gun. Obviously with running the Airsoft and the Nerf channel, well, sort of like the Airsoft and Nerf these days, I have to keep buying and selling guns to keep that happening. I don't get any help, there's no support, no sponsorship. Everything you've ever seen on this channel has been bought with my own money, and the only way I can afford to do that is if I flip the gun afterwards. So I've come to the end of my ownership with this. It's going to a new owner, hopefully look after it very well, but because of that, he has now paid for it. I need to get it shipped to him, and I was like, I need to get this video done. So I haven't had time to get my holdover sort of optics. Anyway, enough waffle. I know I've been waffling for ages, sorry about that. Let's get into the short range test. And this was one I just did for a little bit of fun, check out the health of the rifle, make sure she was all good. And it makes such a mess of the target. Anyway, we'll get onto that now.
Okay folks, you're on board with me now. We're just going to have a little target shoot. This is very close range, so we're not going to learn too much from this, but it's going to make sure my little sight is somewhat on board. A little bit off to the right there, that was my bad. There we are. Right on the bullseye. Target taking quite the hammering. I think my sight is actually a little bit too far down. Yeah, if I aim below the ball at the bottom of the target, we're a little bit more on. One thing I will say about this bearing scar is it does put a lot of twist on the darts. Now we are out. All metal internals on this, doesn't really matter if you dry fire it, it's always best not to obviously, but particularly at 18 kilos. But quite an impressive little performance from close up there. I wasn't really trying to hold it on target. Look at the state that these darts, look at the damage that these darts do to this target. I mean, let's face it, we've seen a lot of BBs hit these targets over the years, but these darts just absolutely muller them. I used an old target, I'm not particularly fast, I just want to, you know, have a quick little go of it. We'll get around the corner, get out to 30 metres and then do 50. And if we get any results at 50, we might push it a bit further, but yeah, little quick 18 metre target shoot there.
Okay, so that was a short range test. No surprises there, you can get on the target fairly easily. You notice it walking around the target. That is primarily because I'm using quite a large reticled sight. You know, this little fake EOTech I've got, it does work pretty well, it holds at 0, but it has quite a large reticle. That reticle is actually the size of the entire target from where I'm standing over there. So it's quite difficult to actually keep it centered, especially when you're pulling like the trigger on this and all that, because a lot of these Nerf, or sort of like dart blasting, these big springers that carry a lot of spring power in them, obviously it puts a lot of strain on the trigger. Because you're using the trigger to release that spring pressure against the power of that spring pressure. So it's moving around, but it is pretty much dead on to where I'm pointing it, to be honest. I like stuff like this close up because 350 FPS hitting that target, it just destroys it. It is so much power. I can't get across to you like what it's like being hit in the face by a 300 FPS Nerf dart if you've never actually, if all you've ever played is airsoft, where we play with like 0.25 gram BBs, 0.3 gram, a heavyweight BB, you know, fired out of a high-end sniper rifle like a 0.46 gram BB or something is less than half the weight of being hit by one of these. And one of these darts, you know, the limit in the UK, there isn't a limit, there's an agreed upon limit, because there aren't any rules regarding, you know, like legal rules regarding Nerf at the moment, other than 12 foot-pound if you take airsoft on a manual Springer. Sorry, not airsoft, air rifles. So we tend to limit it to 300. Being hit in the face by a 350 FPS Nerf dart without having facial protection on, like if you've just got safety glasses or something on, would probably bruise and swell your face for a few days. It's like being sort of, you know, airsoft I find to be quite needly pain. Being hit by a Nerf dart, it's like being jabbed. It's like someone doing that. Having been hit by some decent high powered, Nerf or it's like dart firing guns in the past, hilarious to play. And there are some things you really don't want to get hit. It hurts like hell at times if you get hit in the wrong place. But anyway, let's move on now. 30 meters. I had a little bit of trouble initially getting this going. I didn't really get my sight sighted in properly, but a little bit of a two-part thing here. But I'll cut the first part right down because mainly it's just me missing all the time because I can't see where my holdover is. So we'll get into that now. I'll keep it short and sweet.
Okay, so you're with me now. We're at 30 meters. We've got the 18 kilogram spring. We're on Worker Gen 2 HEs. Got about, I don't know, 10, maybe 10 rounds in the mag. And I'm just going to see if we can't tap that target a little bit from 30 meters out. First few shots are going to be a bit exploratory. I have no idea how close my sight is going to be. Probably miles off, I would have thought. Here we go. Not far off at all, actually. Difficult to see, these darts are red. Oh, a little bit short. It's over the top of the target. There we go. Even at this distance they do make a nice crack when they hit the target. Oh, off to the right. And that was a hit on the backboard and missed the target. Okay, there we go. I'll be back in a sec. I'm going to have a tweak with my sights and see if I can't get a little bit better on the target. Okay, so I think I've got a bit of a better hold on this now. Go see, use that to sync the old cameras up and just see what happens. First strike is a hit. Second hit. Oh, a little bit low. Let my point of aim slide down a bit. Well, we're hitting it every time from this distance. Oh, need to get back camera then. Okay, yeah. So a little bit of tweaking on the sight required. Getting out to 50 meters is going to be quite interesting, so let's give that a go.
Okay, that was 30 metres. Whilst I sorted my shit out, it was quite easy to hit the target. Hit it numerous times on the trot. 30 metres for this thing, not a problem. There is something I'm just going to add here. 30 metres is probably about the distance you need to actually cover in Nerf, or at least in dart blasting. Let's face it, a lot of the things you're going to be engaging with this won't be able to shoot a lot further than that anyway. So anything you can hit over that, even if it's an outside chance of hitting them, but the dart will physically make it there, is an advantage. Obviously if you've got high ground and all that, because of the way darts work, you can extend your advantage. However, the more power and distance you can get that dart to go under power without drop, the more advantage you have. So really, when you can hit a target every time at 30 metres that isn't that big, you're on to kind of like the basic level of what you need to do at most Nerf games. Once you start going beyond that, or at least high-end Nerf games, once you go beyond that, you are venturing into new territory. So let's see how it did at 50 metres. I did a couple of little extra bits in there just because 50 metres with this, with the holdover that it needs, and my inability to set a permanent holdover, and no real background to actually have like a set point of aim. I just had sky, and tree. Which was quite difficult to pick out. Just bearing in mind that I don't have the optics for this. So we'll get into that now.
Okay, back with me now. We've moved back to 50 metres, and I gotta say, this is probably the furthest I've actually tried to target shoot ever with a Nerf gun. I call it a Nerf gun, you know what I mean. It's a big air-powered dart blasting rifle thing. However, I've got my little red dot set to maximum holdover, and got the target down there. I have got the scope cam on the gun just to see if we can get any footage of what the darts are doing further down the field. I'm in line with the first solar panel. That is in line with the 50th solar panel. So we're looking at a full bore 50 metres, and we're going to see if we can get on there. The scope cam does obscure my view a bit, however, you can see where we are in terms of height and direction. Oh, that was not far off. Straight down the middle, beautifully straight. This thing does shoot beautifully straight with this bearing scar. I think we're just dropping a bit short. I'm going to increase my holdover. I can't actually, it's so far down, I can't actually work out if it's going over or dropping short. I think that was about the height we need. Okay, I think it's definitely dropping a bit short. That was a hit. That almost hit the camera. You have to wander down and come back and see if I'm going over or dropping short of the target. So just to reiterate, before I do this little second segment of 50 metres, this is a ridiculously far distance. I think the longest I've ever known anyone get tagged out in Nerf is actually a video that Dorian posted on the, I think it was on the Sabre Discord, of someone getting tagged from what was worked out to be 58 metres away, which is a long old distance. Ironically, the first shot I fired before I turned the camera on, I actually hit this target. I know it is possible. Whether I am good enough to do it or not is entirely anyone's guess. However, we are encountering a bit of operator error. When I went down there just now, there are darts in front and behind, so it can reach the target, it can fly past the target. It is down to me to get the holdover correct and actually get the darts to land on. What is impressive is when I went down there, there is less than 2 or 3 foot deviation each way, which is over that distance quite impressive and very good consistent performance through this bearing scar. So I'm going to take a last pop at it to see if we can get anywhere. Oh, that went off to the right and short. That's probably a bad dart, that. They're going straight down the middle, it's just either over the top or underneath. Oh, that actually bounced off the backboard, right on the top. See what I mean? That actually landed on the top of the backboard and bounced off. So they're hitting it almost. Oh, that was a nice shot. Just fell ever so faintly short. Hit the camera. You'll probably see that on the target cam. I thought it probably would have moved it around a bit. The answer for me is yes. I think with a properly tuned optics, you need something with like a 4x zoom or something to help you see what's going on. Would definitely get the job done. I'm just not good, and I don't have the optics fitted to the gun to actually do this from here. It goes arrow straight. It's very difficult to judge height from this distance. I should have really got a magnifying optic on there. But all in all, quite an impressive performance. What I will do is I'll walk down there, I edit obviously the walk down there and that, and we'll have a look how tight the actual grouping is around that area, which in Nerf is one of the most important things. Okay, so this is where the darts start. You see these are the ones that are dropping short. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that drop short of the target, 7, 8, 9. We've got 1, 2 over the top of the target, 3, 4. Yeah, so, but you'll notice that they are all in a line that is barely the width of this target backboard. So what I'm struggling with here, you see all these darts, if the camera's going down low enough, but none of these darts are outside the line of this target backboard, which for Nerf is kind of stunning. That is a very, very accurate Nerf dart blaster. The only thing that's letting it down is me, because I can't sort out my holdover for 50 metres because I just haven't got the optics on me, which obviously I should have brought down, but realistically, without an angled viewfinder, or sorry, an angled scope mount, getting the holdover to fire a Nerf dart this far with the amount of drop that you get is quite difficult. So it's not just a case of grab an airsoft, scope and whack it on your gun. You do need a leveler almost. So anyway, head back, we'll get some final thoughts in, and then give it a rest. See you later, guys.
And there we are. Oh, thus concludes the firing test. Now, like I say, I cannot get over to you enough how much of this problem is mine and not having the correct optics for this gun. I say, if I could have that sight mounted like that, so the barrel of the gun was pointing up, and I could still set my zero on the target to hit it at 50 meters, you would hit it every time with this thing. Trust me, you would. When I show you that pic of it, all the darts being in line with that target, they're just over like 2 or 3, about 3 or 4 meters. And that was me lowering the raising like that. But the gun never variated left or right. This thing fires perfectly straight. If you had a decent, it wouldn't have to be crazy, like a 4 times magnifying scope on an incline, and you could keep the barrel up and keep your thing. If you sight that target, this thing will give you 345, 350 FPS every time you fire it, and you will hit that target. So that 50 meter test was entirely down to me. I struck it by luck a couple of times, but that was it. But I cannot, emphasize enough, that is me. That is me not having the optics, me not being good enough. So I did fire one dart after that was, I just went purely for range, and it sailed off somewhere. I brought this up to about 35, 40 degrees and fired, and it sent a dart out there and it flew into the bush at the end of the field, which is probably 75, 80 meters plus away. So this thing's actual range is far in excess of the 50 meters that I was firing at. The other thing you got to remember is there was about 50 to 70 FPS missing out of this at the moment, because I wanted to run the 18 kilogram spring just for the consistency. You can push this thing to 420, 430 FPS. You really want to use worker darts with it. Anything else, I've tried dragons for it, I've tried GRS night darts, tried various other things, and the only thing that really goes well in it is the Gen 2 HEs. The only problem with the Gen 2 HEs is the full body ones don't like these barrels, or at least the way the air is delivered in this, it seems to make them expand, and they can actually, some of the darts will grab the barrel and slow the shot down. Sometimes you'll get a horrible noise and a dart will fall out the end of about 100 FPS, and that's all you'll get. So I also have a Sabre M20, or I did, I actually sold it to the same bloke who's having this off me, because I'm kind of waiting to see what comes out with Sabre in the future. They are apparently working on an AEB, like the Mark III Pro Max that I had on here before. That would be fantastic. I think Sabre would do a cracking job of that, and I look forward to seeing what they come up with. Really, I think for manual springers, I love this. It is a fantastic piece of kit, and holding it is unbelievable. It is so heavy, it's well built, it's all that sort of stuff. But realistically, for Nerf combat, if you're against a load of 3D printed stuff that weighs a third the amount, and you're limited to 300 FPS by the rules of the game like we are over here, if you're at a high FPS event, then there's no advantage to having a 4 kilo Nerf blaster. Especially if everyone else is, my Lynx that fires 280 FPS, which is only 20 off the max of what it should, and I could probably squeak the other extra 20 out if I wanted. It's 2.5 kilograms less than this. It is an entire airsoft M4 lighter than this for doing exactly the same job. This will do it better, but that Lynx is certainly not a no slouch. So this is purely well, as Sabre said themselves, it's an expression of their sort of best manufacturing practices. the best materials, and pretty much the best thing they could do with the M20 platform. They have since released the Genesis, which is a smaller, lighter version of this, which I think is a step in the right direction. But it doesn't change the fact that as something to have on the shelf and as something to get out and plink with, and if you want to push darts at 430 FPS without really breaking too much of a sweat, this is the thing to buy. I say unfortunately these aren't available anymore, they won't be made again. But if you keep your eye on Sabre, if you hop on the Sabre Discord, you can buy and pre-order and order guns from them as they come and go. They always have their core range, like the the Delrin M20 and other such guns like that. But every now and then, if you're on the Discord, they'll throw a pre-order on the site on the Discord, and you can bag something like this when they produce them. And it truly is a special piece of kit. The barrel and scar assembly works really well. I've heard people be a bit sort of thing, some people say the string's better, some people say the bearing's better. In my experience, I've never had an issue with the bearing, so I've always left it on there. I didn't really see anything today that would make me take it off. You know, firing it at 50 meters, like I say, all of those darts are within, 2 or 3 foot in width. Over 50 plus meters is crazy in Nerf. That is mental accuracy. And if I get the holdover right, the fact that all of those would have hit the backboard based on the width. So, well impressed with it. Yeah, don't have much to say. Sorry, I know this was a very waffly video. I didn't really mean it to be. I was going to do one of my sort of try and keep it short and concise. But really, there's no way of sort of packaging what this is into a small video, and that's why I broke it into 2 parts originally, with a chronograph for all 3 spring weights on about 4 or 5 different types of dart, which destroyed my arm and shoulder for like the next, I don't know, week and a half. It was painful because one thing I will levy at the gun is that this stock, if you've got a large spring in this thing, this stock isn't actually that comfortable because it is metal, there's no padding, and this will dig into the lower part of your shoulder. So when you're like that, it actually digs in there. And when you're trying to prime this thing with a 26 or even 30 kilo spring in it, it's pain after, I think I probably did the 26 kilo spring maybe 75 times that day in that video, and I was doing it the night before to make sure that it was gonna work for the video. And oh my God, my arm and shoulder was so bad. So I wouldn't mind something that was a little bit more, forgiving than this, even if it had like a butt plate over it, a rubber butt plate. Definitely a wider base plate at the bottom so that it didn't kind of dig this bit into your chest would be just great. But yeah, apart from that, not too much else to say. Thank you for sitting here and listening to my waffle, and buying another Cymer to have on the channel. I really think that it's time to bring a Cymer gun back after talking about the UTR 45, and I want to see how a decent Cymer goes. So we're not going for the £80 models, we're not going for the £100 models. I'm going to spend 160 quid on a Cymer and parallel it against the 160 quid that you pay for the UTR 45 and see what the advantages and weaknesses are of each. So stay tuned if you want to see that. Subscribe, like, dislike, comment. It all helps the channel. I've been Ben, it's been a Shots Fired Airsoft video. Thank you very much and goodbye.